Episode 63, Defense at the Bridge, May 1943. I look back at the armored personnel carrier and have to think about the men. The two severely wounded won't make it. The wounds that were torn by the large pieces of shrapnel we could barely stuff with the first aid kit that we carry. A body does not have that much blood, and at some point it's over. The remaining pioneers stoically return to their jobs. They've certainly already seen a lot. They continue to clear the path through the minefield and don't have quite as much work since many mines have been taken care of by the shelling. After an eternity, the path is declared passable, thus we push ourselves cautiously further forward. Nothing goes bang, therefore the remaining battle group falls in behind. We have to drive behind one another and aren't able to drive out of the track. Just as ordered are now also the Russian planes swooping in. 3 Ratas are curving in on us, and we can only help ourselves with a point defense. Breaking out to the left or right won't work. Too large is the danger to drive onto a mine again. The armored personnel carriers are already firing at the planes with the machine guns. The half-tracks still need to get the cannon ready to fire. But the men know what they can do, and at the first approach on our dragon worm of steel, the 20mm cannons bark and are eating into the first airplane. That one spins out immediately and falls burning and tumbling to the ground. The anti-aircraft men once told me that it was important to shred the first plane in such a way that the remaining ones got cold feet and would think really hard how and where they might attack with getting hit right away. That worked out for once. The 2 other pilots are attacking more reluctantly. Now they're flying at the unit from the side, but that's also not a good idea. Already, one of the Russians is smoking and is leaving a smoke trail behind. The 3rd plane drops its eggs and hits an armored personnel carrier, dead in its side. The vehicle tips over, and the grenadiers try to get themselves to safety with a courageous jump. Then the nightmare is over. The 2 planes are flying away again. The armored personnel carrier is apparently junk, but as if by a miracle, all are only lightly injured. The bomb landed inside a crater. Then, while the pressure was still very high, but the detonation and shrapnel effect was somewhat mitigated. The men receive quick medical care and climb on top of the vehicles of the comrades. Tough men, a scratch bothers them little. Once again, it's one of these days where it's on the red menu as offered. Artillery, mines, anti-tank guns, and planes. Let's see what's now for dessert. We leave the minefield behind us and can again advance in a broad wedge formation. It's going into a large depression, almost a valley already, and we see the river in front of us. I would say that it's a tributary of the Don. There, we're supposed to secure the bridge, establish a firm support base, and hold that until reinforcements arrive. Strategically, this is a good spot, and certainly the leadership had something in mind in order to send us here. But we're cautious, because next to the bridge, one can identify individual houses and vehicles. I borrow the binoculars from the commander and try strenuously to make out details. They look like BAS, those wheeled vehicles which agonize us over and over when we have them in the frontline area. Quick to approach, quick to disappear, tough to hit, because they drive fast and with no regard. We stop. Over the radio, the Panzer are sent forward. We keep behind them in order to take full advantage of the range of our 75mm. Now, some movement is setting in, because the Russian appears to notice that we're heading for the bridge. I try to keep looking through the binoculars, but the tank is rocking too much, so I give up. Down into the turret and button up the hatch. The commander is standing in the turret, but we're still far enough away that he may keep standing there. Now, cannons of the Panzer start barking and are shooting the first houses on fire. The Russian is going into position, and we receive mortar fire. I can't spot any positions. The Panzer that these are underrunning the hail of shells. We keep looking for the mortar emplacement. Indeed, we then see well camouflaged to the southeast the fire position, and the motorcycle unit and an armored personnel carrier are racing in that direction. We remain at a distance of 2,000 meters in weight. Already, The first BAs are now curving in on our Panzer Thetis. But those are changing positions well. Driving, firing, and that always changing. Therefore, the wheeled tanks don't stand a chance. One after the other goes up in flames and takes the crews along to a fiery death. I believe we have the bridge. We roll ahead and are looking at some distance from the bridge for a suitable firing position, from which we can also shell the other side of the bridge. The other side of the bridge is examined. There are no Russians to be seen. Therefore, the battle group gets ready to defend the position at the bridge against possible attacks. The half-tracks are placed in such a way that the planes, should they attack, won't be able to get close to us. The grenadiers build emplacements on both sides of the bridge. The battle group commander places the tanks strategically well in order to have a good defense against attacks on our position. The houses are searched, and quickly, ways are found for the men to prepare something to eat. We wait for now and try boiling some water for coffee. Behind the tank, we stretched out a tarp and are trying to get comfortable. A motorcycle with sidecar comes hurrying to our position and delivers soup and bread for us. Well, that's something for a change. We fill our stomachs, and whoever is not on tank watch duty is able to catch a cup of sleep. The commander is attending an officers' conference. I'm in command as long as he's not present. Certainly, we're going to wait here for 2 to 3 days until reinforcements and relief arrive. Not much is happening. We pass the time by playing a bit of cards and small excursions of the surroundings. Routes of attack and retreat are also explored. Preparation is everything, and we find firm roadways on which one can relocate and advance. A retreat would also be possible, but that's not why we're here. It's turning to evening. The reconnaissance are returning from the forward listening posts. Everything is quiet so far, but I believe Ivan certainly knows that we're sitting here. He needs the bridge for his supplies, and we must wait for now and see how much he's willing to throw into the mix for it. The commander returns and explains the situation to us over a cup of coffee. We're in a way the starting point for a pincer attack which is decisive for the entire division. If we manage to encircle the Russian from here on, large quantities of material could possibly be destroyed. Well, then let's go. I think to myself, but the Russian isn't dumb either by now. He's not allowing himself to be captured as easily as before. They're also learning, those guys. So wait and see. The night goes by without incidents. I'm able to sleep underneath the tank for a few hours. The next morning, all still quiet. We prepare ourselves a tasty breakfast because the radio operator was able to trade for a few eggs with the grenadiers, and now they're being fried. The small bonfire manages the breakfast, and here at the front, everyone turns into a master chef. The sun is already high in the sky. It's still quiet. This is slowly becoming eerie to me. I have such a feeling in my gut. The forward posts also have no news. To me, it's too quiet. Then we hear an engine buzz, and quickly, it's apparent to me that it's one of our storks that's circling above us. It turns away with a wag of the wings and flies on toward the east. After 30 minutes, it's back already and drops a messenger bag. That's quickly retrieved and brought to the battle group commander. Commotion sets in. Our senior ensign is hurrying down to the bridge. There are also a few heavy clubbers along, so KV tanks. Well then, Rocinante must ask them for a dance. We're getting combat ready. Here, we're able to take enemy tanks under fire at a range of 1,800 meters, unless they're coming through the bend at the north side of the depression. There, they could get to within 600 meters, but there too, we could cleanly engage them. The first clouds of dust are already announcing the opponent, and we've coordinated our field of fire with the other Panzer IV, the Ursula. The commander is standing in the turret and is looking for targets. Then the first tank turrets appear. The commander gives the direction. I turn the turret and look at my directional viewfinder. I've closed my viewport, and I'm glued to the optic. TS are well visible, range 1,200 meters. Don't fire before 1,000 meters, Rudolf. I hear over the radio. He's never called me Rudolf before. Well, then, first off the Russian. Via radio I hear 1000, T-34 to the left. Fire. I briefly readjust. The projectile leaves the tank cannon. Impact in front of the enemy tank. I wanted to shoot into the lower plate, but that was still too short. I readjust. Shell is loaded. Breech closed. I fire a second time, and the projectile impacts close to the driver's hatch. The tank stands still and is smoking. The hatches fly open. Next, the Panzer at these are still holding back. The range is still too great for the 50 millimeters. Tank 800, far right, fire. I aim, report, and impact. It's turning away since I knocked off its tracks. It's showing me a part of its side. I aim again and fire once again. The angle was bad, and the shell is deflected off the turret. The angled armor is utterly frustrating. I aim a little lower, and the shot is spot on. The turret jumps out of the turret ring and is sitting cockeyed. Flames are coming out of the tank, but this time, none of the hatches are opened up. Another 2 tanks are hit by Ursula. Now the T are pulling back. On the left side, the battle noise has increased. The KVs have driven through the break in the terrain, so the T-34s had just been a diversion. Only the turret is visible from our position. I take aim but don't receive fire permission. Yet, to the right of the bridge, the Russians are now attacking. Waves of Red Army soldiers are emerging from not recognized positions and are assaulting our bridge defenses. The well-camouflaged 20 mm engages into the ground combat and is reaping a bloody harvest amongst the assailants. The KV is pushing out of cover. I can already see the forward drive sprocket. I wait. Slowly it pushes further out. Just 1 more meter. Now go. On the radio, I hear the senior ensign Rudolf. Are you able to get it? I scream back that I'll need another meter. The battle rages on uninterrupted. Sweat is running down my forehead. I briefly pull away from the optic and wipe away the sweat from my eyes. I now take aim at a point just aft of the drive sprocket and shout out that I'm now ready to fire. Permission to fire. Already, the projectile is flying in the direction of the KV. Crap, a bit too high. The next shell is loaded. I aim. In the meantime, the KV has come down a bit further. I now have it directly in my sight. I fire, and like in slow motion, I see the projectile like a glowing thorn chewing into the lower plate of the KV. Then, there's nothing to see. It simply swallowed up the shell. That can't happen. A blink of an eye later, it tears the Russian tank apart, and the turret flies from the chassis in a high arc. That was a direct hit. The senior ensign slaps me on the shoulder. There, no other KV will be able to get through because the Colossus is blocking the way. The Russians are withdrawing. Again, they've gotten a bloody nose. But in the next assault, they'll certainly return with twice the number of tanks and infantry. And then there'll probably be a hellish dance with the artillery beforehand. I hope that reinforcements will arrive soon, or else we may already have to cut down some birch trees for crosses.